So this year I've been to 6 weddings, and last year I went to I think 6 weddings, 5 or 6. So it's amusing because I feel like in the circles that I have grown up in of people that I know, I've had like 2 separate sections of big batch of weddings, another big batch of weddings, and this is the second big batch of weddings, during which time there's also been the first batch of babies, people from the other batches of weddings. It's all baby wedding situation. And I think now of like the childhood friends that I grew up with, there are probably 4 or 5 that have 1 or more babies who are about my age, not babies, the women, like mid-20s. And then there's others that are expecting babies. And then, yeah, I mean, I know it's not a given that when people get married they have babies straight away or anything, but certainly that has been the case for quite a lot of people I know. And it's really awesome and I'm so excited for them. But it's weird as well because every time it happens, I feel so far away from that stage in life myself. And it's not because I don't want to have children at all, or that I'm feeling like jealous because I want to have them now and they are, but it is weird for me. I have to say it is weird for me. I guess because I'm quite a long way away from most of them geographically. And it's like, oh my God, you're all on the baby train and there's all this chat about nappies and breastfeeding and sleeping times and all this stuff that I don't know anything about. Like I can't join in those conversations. And I guess really selfishly, like I worry that I'm going to lose those friendships on account of how that's just one other thing between the two of us that isn't a common thing anymore. Like, you know, I'm far away geographically and we don't have shared interactions very often except for at this myriad of weddings that we go to. And now they have children and I don't have children, and like I feel like it's kind of my responsibility to make the effort to continue those relationships and friendships because, you know, I have more flexibility than they do. But it's also quite odd because I guess I thought when I was younger that I would have my life a bit more together by now, whatever that means. And I don't think my idea of having my life together necessarily involved having children by this point, but I guess when you're a child, like 27 probably sounds quite old. I remember when me and my siblings were growing up and we used to plan some of the stuff that we would do. And for my parents' 20th wedding anniversary, which was when I was nearly 20, we were going to send them on a hot air balloon ride. And for their 25th wedding anniversary, which was last year or the year before, I should really know this, I think it was last year, we would, last year, sorry, we would send them on a cruise, because naturally I thought that between me and my siblings we'd have so much money by that point. As it is, we haven't managed either. I threw them a joint 50th birthday party, and that's about it, because I just don't have that kind of money. I don't have like my career on track. I don't have a specific plan entirely. I have lots of ideas, I have lots of plans and things that I want to do and things that I think are important, but like my whole game plan, my whole priorities in life have just had to change as I've gone along. And I expect that a lot of these girls, well, women that I'm friends with that have had children, maybe they planned, maybe they didn't. Like a lot of stuff just happens in life that you're not expecting and you just go along with it, and it's wonderful. Like a lot of things that I've done in the last few years, you know, I've learned because I've sort of just seen an opportunity and walked into it and made the most of it. I haven't really planned it. But I am coming up for that interesting phase in life now where, you know, I'll be married for 5 years in December, and Stan and I got married at 22, which is really quite young, so I don't think anyone was expecting us to have children straight away. But we're coming up on 5 years now, and it's like, you know, a couple of people starting to give us that nudge. A couple of people, you know, well, you're not working at the moment, why don't you have babies now and then go back to work afterwards? Like, it's just this really easy thing that I can just decide to do while I have no money. Genius! And like, I feel bad sometimes because I know people that really want to have children and can't. And I know people that really want to have children but feel like they shouldn't because it's not the right timing yet. And I know people who are having children that they didn't plan at all and are having to kind of adjust their whole lives around it, but they are obviously really happy about it. And then there's me, and I'm just kind of sat in the middle going, I don't know, I don't feel grown up enough yet. Like, I don't feel responsible enough. It's not that I'm irresponsible. I don't have that kind of yearning. I don't have that maternal craving thing that so many people I know seem to have. And sometimes that worries me because I've always thought that I would like to have kids at some point, but I'm 27 now and I don't feel it. I'm not in a rush. But then I know that in 3 years' time, everyone will be like flipping out at me because I'm 30 and I'm childless if I still don't have kids by then. And it's like, oh, it's just really weird. It's really weird, like whatever decision you make as a woman, and I do think this is mainly for women because I think like men can become fathers at various different stages in their life, and there isn't so much of a like time frame that they have to work with. But it's like you can't really win as a woman when it comes to babies. Like, I have had jobs where I have been told, you know, do not get pregnant while you're working here because, you know, we don't want to do maternity leave. We don't, you know, we'll just replace you. Pretty much it's been intimated that I would be replaced. I'm sure that there are legal requirements for a certain minimum amount of maternity leave, but basically it was made very clear that that was pretty much going to be a hostile environment to become a mother in. So that's kind of off-putting, you know, for people who are trying to plan maternity into their career prospects, to try and actually have to narrow their job potential down to, well, these people will give me decent maternity leave and these people won't, they'll replace me or they'll make life difficult for me. You know, to have to think about that is really hard. And then people who are like, well, I want to have my kids young, but I also want to go to university. You know, how do I balance that up? There is still very much this divide, I think, between people who go career then children and people that go children and then career. And I just feel like in this modern society we should have been able to figure out by now how to make society work around mothers. Like, we've had, you know, female suffrage for ages now, and there's such a process that has been gone through in Parliament over the last 20-30 years, just gradually improving equality really for men and women in terms of equal pay, in terms of access to certain types of jobs that shouldn't really be gender specific. It's still an issue to some extent, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. And yet there is socially this kind of pressure of, well, you've got to decide which way round you're going to do stuff because everybody knows realistically you can't do both at the same time. There is that thought, even though I'm sure there are plenty of people that are successfully doing it, but it's difficult. And like, for me, I almost feel like guilt toward my potential future children that I haven't had them yet, and that therefore, you know, they'll have an old mother or something. Which is really stupid, probably, but I do think about that sometimes. Or the fact that, you know, my in-laws are quite a lot older than my parents and they would really like to have grandchildren, but you can't just have children to keep your parents happy. And then the fact that actually I think if you wait until all your practical circumstances are right, like you have what you think you need, like you might never get around to it if you keep waiting until you have what you need, because you're not always going to be able to predict all your requirements. So yeah, I'm not on the baby train. I'm so not on the baby train right now. And I have nothing but admiration for those who are. I think it is a beautiful and utterly terrifying, frankly, thing. And I've seen how much it changes them in a really good way as people. But yeah, I'm just not feeling it right now. And that kind of worries me because I feel like I should. But again, that's just a kind of social construct of, well, if you're a woman and you don't feel like having kids, then there must be something wrong with you, or you're being really selfish waiting. Yeah, it's a really complicated issue. I don't know. What do you think? Like, women and men out there that may or may not be watching me rambling on about my life. What do you think? Like, what's your experience been? Have you had children? Are you thinking about it? Do you think that it does work to have, you know, women be able to work and have children as well in current society? Or is it really kind of only working for those who can afford to stay at home with their children, or for those who can afford what is honestly quite expensive daycare, or have both sets of grandparents nearby that can babysit. Like, there's a whole logistical minefield, and I'm very grateful that my mum stayed at home with me and my siblings. You know, there were 5 of us, and she and my dad made the decision quite early on that although it was difficult at times financially, that was what they wanted to do. And I'm really grateful for that. But then, of course, my mum did homeschool us for quite a long time, me for 6 years and my younger siblings for longer. And that's a whole different setup. And I'm not by any means saying that that it's worse if women decide to work and have their children in daycare or what have you. I'm not going to make that kind of a judgment. I think that's really unhelpful. Like, I'm grateful for the type of upbringing that I had, but I don't think that you can say that there's one correct way to do everything. But yeah, as Stan and I move toward our 5th wedding anniversary, and we don't own our own house yet, and I currently have no job, and obviously I'm working on that, and it'll all be sorted out. It's fine. It's just it's a little snippet of current life, but in amongst all these wedding and baby announcements, it does make me think, crap, do I have to come up with some kind of plan right now? I feel like some things in life can't be completely planned, and maybe this is one of them, and maybe I'll just have to figure it out as I go along. But at the moment, if people make hints about me being pregnant, I like to embarrass them by saying, no, I'm just fat, because it's really funny to see their faces. I'm just fat, I'm not pregnant, sorry.